Thanks. Can you hear me out there?
Scott can hear us, he said.
Can you?
Can you hear us, Scott? Yeah, but you could hear us.
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Nah, yes,
We can hear you
sir.
now. Oh, you took the mute off.
Yeah, the mute kind of keeps me from being heard. No, you guys, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Well, we'll try to keep you awake for this one because there's so many legalities involved. Well, I don't think Rick's coming.
I don't know, he doesn't seem to be coming through the door, so.
Yeah, and the mics don't seem to be working. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, I forgot to turn my phone off.
Well, my green light isn't on either.
Yeah, the little light.
Lights aren't
I
on.
can run upstairs and make sure
No,
it's broadcasting.
we're going to be done before you get back.
Well, Scott said he can hear us when we talk, so.
Yeah, well, he could hear us before. He could always hear us. Good evening, everyone. Approval of the January 24 minutes. Nobody's here, so you're it.
Mr. President, I have read the minutes and I make a motion we approve.
So moved. Jeff, you're seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone in opposition? Minutes stand approved. Unfinished business.
None.
New business. 02/01/2022 Corridor Drive, variance from development standards to allow a very large sign. Go.
All right, the petitioner has requested a variance from development standards to allow for a greater sign area allotment than permitted in an I-2 zone. The petitioner is requesting a sign allowance of up to 2,000 square feet for multiple signs, some of which will be attached to storage containers along US 30. The property is located between Corridor Drive and US 30 and is one of the first properties within city limits along westbound 30. The surrounding context includes other businesses having a mix of freestanding, wall, and temporary signs. One business nearby in an I-2 has a sign height of 24 feet. There are also two billboards along US 30, one to the southeast of the parcel and one near the middle of the parcel's southern frontage, which are typically 672 square feet in area. The nature of the US 30 corridor lends itself to an environment where taller and larger signs are necessary to communicate businesses and their products. The planning department has approved a few signs that are larger than permitted, one being the sign split between Parkview and the YMCA, which totals 468 square feet, and another being one for the Aegis Dental Group at 210 square feet. Based on the findings of fact, the information provided, and the surrounding context, the planning department believes the board could approve this request. However, we recommend that some conditions be added to the approval. Based on the location and existence of the billboard on the parcel, the planning department proposes to allow for one monument or freestanding sign along US 30 that is about half the size of a typical billboard. This would allow for a sign that is 340 square feet and 24 feet in height as calculated per the sign ordinance. To clarify, the planning department's recommendations, we suggest to allow for one monument or freestanding sign at 340 square feet along US 30, to allow for one monument or freestanding sign at 120 square feet along Corridor Drive, to allow for the freestanding sign to be 24 feet in height along US 30. Temporary signs are allowed up to 230 square feet and must comply with the temporary sign regulations. In total, this suggestion offers 460 square feet of permanent signs and 230 square feet of temporary signs.
Thank you. There was a mailing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Nobody's called the office? No other issues? Okay. Before we open it to the public, any questions or comments? All right, very good. I
What-
assume,
I have a question. Why,
Yeah.
why are these pictures, are
So-
these the signs that they're comparing them to?
Those are the billboards. The top one is on the southeast side of the parcel, and the bottom one is in the middle of the parcel along
Okay.
US 30.
And you're gonna allow those to stay there?
they've already been approved.
Well, the one is not in city limits. The top one is not in city limits.
Oh, okay,
The bottom one is technically on their parcel, I believe.
okay.
Now, has
We can let that one
those
scoot.
conditions been communicated to you? You accept them?
I was going to discuss them a little bit, if that's okay. Well, maybe I should just say yes.
If you do, we're opening it to the public. If you'd like to speak in favor of the petition, you can walk over, grab the mic, and tell everybody who you are and what discussions you would like to
I'm
have.
gonna pass the things out.
And you've got about 30 seconds.
Oh, man. Well, we included, I don't know if you had it, we've got the preliminary,
Thank you.
Now, is this, have you given this to the city planning
yeah,
department?
they haven't really commented yet on it.
It was part of the director's comments sent out.
Okay. So what's different about what you read and what I'm reading? Here. Thanks. He's that. Oh,
Oh,
I think
that
Whitney
goes to
takes
Whitney.
It's taken about a year and a half on the engineering. It's, I know engineering and everything's taken forever. Well, in that time, I'm Dale Custer, by the way.
Yeah, you gotta help the press. You gotta speak into the mic.
I'm Dale Custer.
The mic's not working.
And the mic's not working? I thought you said that one was.
Test, test.
Go ahead, Dale. We'll live through
We
it.
can hear you.
Okay.
I think Fidel's mic is working, I can hear you. If that
Okay.
helps.
All right, thanks,
Well,
Scott.
since that time, we had some new opportunities that presented themselves, and we had maybe a little bit of different interpretations of what was permitted last time. So I provided this document, so it'll be crystal clear. I kind of believe in cooperate and graduate, and if I'm real clear, there won't be any questions later, is what I was hoping.
Now, Dale, just to be, has this been submitted to the city yet?
No, this document I just gave you, it was just for your reference. And we're hoping that if you approve it, then they've got everything that,
Okay, what I'm trying to get to, are you modifying anything that's in the written proposal? And-
I don't
No?
think so.
Okay,
I
good.
don't think so. But if you review it and make certain it's all okay, then we're all on the same page. and we
No,
don't
okay.
have
It
questions
looks
later.
like we are.
Yeah. And so
Right.
we kind of asked for these things in place of some of those other buildings that we might do, maybe because it could be dual usage for the property. And it's going to take a while to build out that many storage units that would be on that design. So we started acting on this new opportunities. And so basically, on the signage, we're just, of course, you guys can read, we want to be able to sell other things. And then I'm quoting an email down below. We requested 2,000. I guess I went with that number because that's what I had approved in the county on my other building, and it's a lot. So they said that the planning department suggested the following, just as you read. And so I believe in cooperate and graduate. I did have one question. Is that two sides, like on each side of a sign, or is each side half?
So on the corridor drive side, what we are suggesting is 120 square feet. And then you would have one sign along US 30 that would be allotted for 340 square.
But is that on each side of the sign?
Yes.
Or
Yeah, as
half
long as
on each side?
So as long as you cannot see both sides from one point of view, you'll be fine to have it on both sides.
Okay, so I mean, is it double the size? I mean, is each size 340, or is that half of that on one side and half on the other?
Each side can be 340.
Oh, okay, well, that's more,
Yeah, Each side would be equivalent.
okay, well, that's helpful.
All
then,
right.
too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in this
Corridor drive. Right?
thing here, I got my formal request. We're requesting the following variance, minimum sides, and I put on minimum signage areas to be approved based on the planning department's recommendations. But I would like the following areas to kind of be clarified. The approval square foot, I'd like it to be, if you're good with that, be measured and calculated by the actual sign size, not what it's on. If you know what I
Monument that
mean.
holds it
Yeah.
doesn't count.
Pardon me?
That doesn't count. It's the sign
Okay, I
only.
just want that to be clarified.
Unless it's bigger than the sign.
Well, because we had some other thoughts on that. So if that's clarified, that it's the
Yeah,
sign,
as long- It cannot be bigger than the sign, and I don't believe you can, once the sign's set as far as structure, you can only hold it up. You can't have a oblique all the way to the ground, correct? Because you're only going to get that much signage, and then you can have a post that holds
You
it
can
up.
have a post,
Yeah.
yeah. Or if you do
Well-
a monument, there is no space between the ground and the sign.
There has
Oh,
to
it
be.
has to be down low then?
Yep. But there's
I
the
got it.
option
Well,
for
I'm-
freestanding.
Okay, do you understand that? You
Well,
can
not
put your-
exactly.
You can put your big sign up, whatever's holding it can't be the same size as the sign going along.
Well, let me tell you what we had in mind was use some of the storage units, put the signs on that.
On the storage units?
Yeah. So where does that fit in?
So.
Now, we also, before we go there, we've got, I showed you some pictures of what other people do. We like that the little signs that's on every unit not be part of that.
Talking about here on that page.
So storage units, if they are not affixed to the ground, they would not be considered a structure per our city ordinance, and thus they would be temporary signs and would have to follow the temporary sign guidelines.
Okay, now with that though, how big is the temporary sign guideline for each of those structures? Is
Yeah,
that
and
what
how
you're
long
talking
can it
about?
be temporary?
Or can they paint the whole thing as a sign?
If they paint the whole thing as a sign and the storage container is affixed to the ground, it would be considered a permanent sign.
Because we'd like to use one container as the sign base. So
So
can we make that work?
if it's under 200 square feet, you would not need a foundation.
200 square feet. Okay,
If it's
that's-
200 square feet or larger, you would need a foundation to make it a permanent structure.
So could we put a foundation under the storage unit?
Well, what she's saying is if you make it a permanent, is the storage unit not gonna ever move again?
Well, I hate to say never, but I mean, if it's.
For the
on
most
concrete,
part,
it's
it'll be a
problem.
permanent
Yeah.
fixture, and you're gonna have a foundation underneath it?
If I have to, I mean,
Yeah.
I usually just, we set them down.
Yeah, if you just have it on the ground and there's no foundation.
So you level it out and then you set the storage containers down and they're all supposed to be in line.
Yeah, and that's what I'm hoping you'll approve, that as a variance, that you maybe
I don't think we've got
consider that as
anything
being
right
variance that
against it, do we?
would allow it.
Because it's not a permanent structure.
Well, in our sign ordinance, if it's not a permanent structure, then anything on it would be considered a temporary sign. That's,
Well, we have structured wording in the, because I was on the committee, that talks about temporary signage, but that goes to the, remember that, Scott? It covers like flags and things like that they can only have banners and big for sale signs. Usually the furniture business, the ones that come to mind on those.
Well, and the car dealers had those signs up.
Yeah, the big gorilla and things
Yeah.
like that. I don't know if we can do much on this one, though, if it's considered temporary and it's not on a base.
Yeah, so my opinion is if the structure it's attached to is mobile, and I think what Mr. Custer is describing as a mobile storage container, I think that would be a temporary sign because it's not permanently affixed, like a post or a building or something else. So I think that it would qualify as a temporary sign because a mobile storage container would be, you could pull it around, slide it around, put it on the back of the truck or whatever, and move it at any time. So I think it needs to be a permanent structure for it to be a permanent sign.
So, could we, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
If we affix it to the ground, is that considered?
Well,
permanent?
if you make it with a foundation and bolt it to the ground, then it's no longer in a temporary.
Okay, well, I think, we'll try to live with that. I didn't know if that could be part of the zoning exception, but
Now,
we would like
once you
to.
make it permanent, then it falls under signage.
Okay. Yeah,
And then you've got a whole other issue to deal with. Now, we might approve it later,
Mm-hmm.
but I would, for now, I would leave it on the ground.
okay, can we then include these pictures, the signage that are actually on the containers as not being part of this whole thing? Because that's the way our competitors are. They have, like in these pictures.
The answer
each
is
one-
you can do that.
Okay, well, I think that works.
That covers it?
Yeah, if
Okay.
we just clarify that it's two sides,
Yes, the two
that-
sides will be
Okay.
equal in size, both sides.
okay,
And then anything that's not bolted to the ground, you can put signage on.
okay. I think we're on the same page here.
You're good.
And just to be clear, bolted to the ground, anything that's not made a permanent structure there. So I don't want to be like too splitting hairs on that bolted to the ground, but like a stake isn't going to make it a permanent fixture. It's got to be a permanent structure for it to be a permanent sign.
Right.
Otherwise, it's a temporary structure and it's a temporary sign.
And is there a limit on the temporary part of it?
Yes, so the temporary signs, for that lot, there would be allowed up to 230 square feet.
For how long?
So according to our ordinance, I have it highlighted.
It used to be a restriction of about like 90 days or something, if I remember right. Do you have it?
Right here.
Okay.
It says, use of temporary signs shall not exceed a total of 180 days of use per business in a calendar year.
Okay, now I'm back to another question because I don't see this. Scott, what I'm looking at here, and you can see it, is that's just a sign on the container. Unless he makes a whole bunch of other things, I don't know if that's, is that considered a 180 day?
I would say it's a temporary sign if it's being hung on a temporary structure.
Well, if you look around the city, these are all over the place, and they all have signs on them.
Yeah.
And so you'd be opening up a can of worms if you called that a temporary sign, because that means everybody.
Now, when you said,
always-
let me interrupt you. When you say they're inside the city limits and they look just like this,
Yeah, if you look around,
that's fine. I just wanted to clarify.
well, basically, it's like the name and stuff on the unit, so people know who it is, they don't get stolen.
Yeah.
And of course, it's advertising, if you want one, here's the name. If they were gonna consider that picture type stuff as temporary.
No, I don't, that's why I'm pushing the
Yeah.
point. I don't think
Yeah.
that falls under it, but that's, Scott?
Well, I guess the example is if you pulled like a semi-trailer around and just parked it out along the road and that had signage on it, that would be a temporary sign. And I guess the ordinance requires that permanent signs be permanent. And I think a permanent sign would be permanently affixed to the ground by like the post or the monument, or the things that are considered for the permanent signs are usually posts or monuments. So that's my concern under our ordinance as is that it seems to fall more on the side of temporary if it's on a temporary structure.
Well,
And I think that a storage container, the mobility of a storage container by itself is generally temporary. It's the container that's moved around.
Yeah, but again, if you're looking at a mobile mini, and that's the sign that's on this thing, you know, that seems to be something that would be allowed, but that's why I think he's asking the point, is because I don't see him unbolting the signs off every one of them that comes in.
if you look at like Kmart, not Kmart, but Walmart, they've got like 24 out there, and they all got this type of stuff on them. I kind of think that that's kind of like, well, trucks going down the road, they have painting on them, you know, and on the sides. I guess I would hope that you would consider this not a temporary, it's just part of the unit.
Well, Scott, we're either gonna go for this thing, or we're gonna put contingencies on it. Is this something that you think needs further clarification, or should we just,
Can I say one other thing?
Yeah.
We're kind of talking about two different things. One was that if we used a container for the sign, okay, and that be bolted and
okay, now
permanent
when
and all
when
that.
you,
And
when
the
you're
other is
talking
just,
about the sign,
okay,
bolted to the ground instead of one that's up in the air,
yes. I could live with what you're saying on the sign, you know, like the main one, put concrete down, secure it and all that. But the ones that are for sale, or rent, then, you know, we rent these out. And it would be impractical to take the signs off all the time. In fact, a lot of them are painted on, and I consider these as part of just the unit itself, not the sign or the.
so you're saying you're not gonna get a billboard-style sign, you're gonna use one of these for your sign?
Well, I was consider that as the sign, the main one which we've got all this square footage in. But we're gonna have containers back
Behind it?
behind it in storage and things like that. And we're also, we'll sell these and stuff too, so I think that the standard is that it's not considered. I mean, if it is so, like Walmart needs like 20 sign permits, temporary sign permits. And they're all
I see your
around.
point there. I'm wondering though, if Dale, if you really want to do that, if you're modifying the application, which it sounds like you might be doing, or requesting a modification, what do we do with that? Because we can only approve what's in front of us as opposed to the discussion, right? I think that's the way that would work. Scotty, you got an opinion on that? Mute, you're on mute.
So my opinion is you can only approve what was in the application.
Right,
Right.
that's what I was looking for. See,
But
Dale,
I appreciate Mr. Custer coming and wanting to be dead certain that everybody's on the same page with what he's allowed to do, and I'm glad there's a big discussion about it. It's not my decision what he's allowed to do. I just have an opinion about a temporary sign is.
yeah, the
a
legalities
sign.
of it, right.
Yeah.
I think what it is, Dale, as he said, to clarify it, we can only vote on what's in front of us. If you do want to modify it, we can approve what you've got in front of us, then you go back to the city and they can discuss it. If it's outside of the lines far enough, the planners will let you know you're coming back. That's up to you.
Okay,
How far away, all these other containers that you're gonna rent and sell and whatever, how far away from the main sign are they gonna be? Are they gonna be
Well,
100 yards away from them, or is
we
it?
had discussions with Jeremy and Justin, and we kind of worked out a plan, and those mostly need to be away because that needs to be, he's considering that outside storage. So that needs to be away. The stuff more up, certain areas are going to be considered the sales area. And so
So
you'll
that'll be
have, those
closer to
there will
30.
be for sale.
So you'll have that closer to 30 and then Corridor Drive was
Yeah,
the other
that
location.
would be more where the storage is
Okay.
and not in.
Does that answer your question, Jim?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I'm listening to what he's saying, you know, and if you have a whole bunch of containers, 30 containers that you wanna sell or rent or whatever, they're not gonna be out by the highway. They're gonna be back there
Yeah.
when you're trying
Yeah.
to sell something.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a car or whatever. What
Okay.
we're looking at, what we've been shown here, you know, what was said was the sign.
Yeah.
What we're talking about are the signs that you put in your application and what you're asking us to do. Now, it sounds like what you said is that somehow you're modifying it just a little bit, and we need to know exactly what it is you're
Well, we
going,
can only vote on
you're
what's in
wanting to
front
do,
of us.
yes.
Okay. Well, so what's in front of you would be.
Well, right now, we've got two items in front of us, keep that in mind. And the one we're talking about is
Yeah.
a sign.
Yeah, yeah.
The next one is automobile sales and construction equipment. And I don't know why don't we tackle that when we get to it? So the one that we're talking about, because there's an 01 and an 02. An 01 is just a sign. And I think we've got to make a motion and vote on it, but I think that will be approved in all likelihood. Then we can tackle the corridor drive side of it with what you want to do with it. And I don't know that, I read both applications and I read both views of the planning department, and both said that we could approve it. So I don't think there's anything, there's not going to be a lot of objection to either one of these. But if you do modify it far enough outside of the lines, then the city's going to request, that you come in and talk.
Well,
to
I
them.
try to do what's right, so.
And
But I
the
thought
city
if you knew
planners.
what's in my mind, you'd have a better understanding.
Yeah, well, we do, but that doesn't help us, because we can only vote for what's the application that's in front of us. And right now, that is for the larger sign and to allow for automobile sales and construction equipment.
Okay,
Anything outside of that,
well, I
I'm gonna let
thought,
the planners figure it out.
if we were clear, maybe, I didn't realize you couldn't do anything else. At least you know and you're informed.
No, I like the clarity. That helps us, and particularly the planning department and for legal to review, but the fact is that once we have an application in front of us, that's all we can vote on. Even if we have the background information and you can say you told the planning commission and the Board of Zoning Appeals your position and what you might want to do. That has nothing to do with what we can vote on.
Okay.
Okay? Just to be clear. And we've been neighbors and know each other well, so I'm not worried about it. I think you'll do just fine. But again, just for clarity, anything outside of what is in the applications, we cannot approve or decide on.
Okay,
Does that help?
yeah.
Good. Anything else?
For the sign,
Yes,
and then we'll talk about the other. Okay, not for the sign.
that's enough for the sign. All right. Anyone else in favor? Anyone in opposition? I already counted your vote. Family counts. Closed to the public. Any other questions or comments? Go.
I'd make a motion, we approve this 2022-0201.
So moved. Jeff seconds.
With the restrictions that the planning department has.
If I read both properly and I scanned the second one, they're the same, or very close to. So I think, but we can only approve what's in front
I'm
of you.
just saying the restrictions that they put on the signage,
Right,
that I
Yeah, with
will
those-
second with those restrictions in.
yes.
Yeah.
All those in favor? Aye. Anyone in opposition? That carries. Moving on to 0202-2022. Sounds like a poker
Give
game.
me that.
It almost does.
All right, allow for automobile sales and construction equipment on the property. You're up.
Cool. The petitioner has requested a use variance to allow the sales of automobiles and construction equipment in an I-2 zoned lot. The petitioner wishes to use the property for sales of a variety of products, including excavating equipment, trucks, and automobiles, along with other permitted sales for an I-2 district. The property is located between Corridor Drive and US 30 and is one of the first parcels in the city limits along westbound US 30. The surrounding context also includes properties that sell trailers, sporting goods, tools and hardware, restaurant supplies, and electrical supplies. It is important to note that the eastern adjacent property is an unincorporated mobile home park. The planning department believes that this request could be viewed favorably when measured by the criteria defined within the findings of fact.
Thank you. Questions or comments? With that, we'll open it to the public. Would you like to speak in favor of the petition?
Oh, yeah, I'll go for a favor of it. We have talked to the planning and we told them which ones we wanted, and so we had a letter that they thought that a lot of these are already covered. And so, but it was kind of the same thing. I just wanted to be clear. So really, this is just a few words here of clarity. Other than that, we're just requesting to be able to allow to do that, the sales.
And I think that's covered. Is that
Yep.
correct? I think we are. And by the way, the mailing, no objections?
Nope.
Okay. Very good. Anything else you'd like to cover, sir?
No, if you're able to put this in the minutes, what I've written would be great.
Not up to me.
Okay.
I'll let the lawyers.
I don't mean to be a pain, I just like clarity and everybody knows and.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. I like the clarity. All right, well, anyone speaking in opposition? Closed to the public. We have another one in front of us.
I'll make a motion, we approve.
So moved, seconded by
Second.
Dan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone in opposition? That carries. Any other matters? That's a no?
Nope.
You gotta verbalize this.
Sorry, no.
The attorney doesn't hear it, it doesn't count. All right, we have one more motion to go.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
So moved, seconded by Dan. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone in opposition? Have a good evening, everyone.
Thanks, Dale.
Thank you, sir. Good luck with that.
What are you gonna do with that big mound of dirt anyway?
Well,
He's moving it to your place.
there's a lot of soft ground in there.
Right.
Dig it out and make a base.
Oh, okay, yeah.